Glad to have you here with us. You've got yourself one heck of a track record. I had a few notes on the teleprompter here, but naturally they just went blank for some reason. It decided to reset itself, I guess. So we're just going to have to wing it here. Tell us a little bit. I know you've got yourself a reputation as a hard-rocking blues artist. Probably the queen of the road warriors, I think is one expression I've heard. Tell us a little bit about your background coming up to now.
Okay. I grew up in Lexington, Kentucky, and I started off touring with a band called Stealing Horses on Arista Records, and we toured through the late 90s. And I put the Kelly Richey band together that was the late 80s. I put the Kelly Richey band together in early 91-ish and started making records in 94. And today I have 16 records that I've released on my own label. And 2 years ago I started easing off the road from constant touring and sold my house, downsized, and wanted to just think about what I was doing musically, because I've been doing life coaching now for about a decade, and I've taught guitar lessons my entire career. And so I sold my house, I downsized, and as I was trying to kind of figure out what to do next, I met Sherry McGee, who I had known from my early days when I first started touring with Stealing Horses. We were on Arista Records, and she was on Enigma Records with a band called Velvet Elvis. And we were kind of ships passing or flying, maybe speedboats passing in the daytime. She was on the road nonstop, ended up in L.A. I was on the road nonstop, ended up in Nashville. And all these years later, we found ourselves being asked to do a project, and New Year's Eve project. And I said, if you can get Sherry McGee to do it, yeah, I've never gotten to work with her. And because I don't like typically to play New Year's Eve, but I thought, if Sherry could do it, that'd be fun. Yeah, sure. And oh my God, it was a match made in heaven. She's like the best friend I've ever had, the best bandmate. And I said to her, I've always wanted to do like a Black Keys, White Stripes, Black Duo Jets kind of thing. Would you be game? She's like, oh yeah. She goes, I'd love that. And I always thought Sherry was more of a pop, drummer. Oh my God, it's like John Bonham. She's just my dream drummer. And so we did a couple of rehearsals, and it was like, well, we don't really need to do that again. As long as I show up prepared, she follows me right off any cliff I could ever dream of jumping from.
Awesome.
And
awesome.
we have a blast, and it's I've always called what I did blues rock, but I mean it's very blues-based rock. I'm just a Zeppelin, Hendrix, fan all along. And my favorite guitar player is Roy Buchanan.
That brings up one description of you that I did want to pass on. Sorry to interrupt you, but I've got to do it before it slips my mind, and I don't have it on the tip of my tongue. Kelly, I've heard you described as Stevie Ray Vaughan trapped in a woman's body with Janis Joplin screaming to get out.
Huh. Yes. And, I tell people it's like, if you don't like that, then you're probably not going to like me. And I won't take offense, but that would be it. Lonnie Mack, who, rest in peace, he was a dear friend of mine, and he's the one that said Stevie Ray Vaughan trapped in a woman's body, and then another writer said with Janis Joplin screaming to get out, kind of a double quote. And it's like, well, that sums it up. And
that is
awesome.
That's a high compliment. That is the energy
that I have. When Lonnie said that, it brought tears. I mean, he worked with Stevie and did a record with Stevie and knew him very well. And, that was an honor to have anybody say. And I have Stevie's right hand. I don't have his left hand. I'm not Popeye. But he was a big influence on me, mainly his right hand, because I was really brilliant back in the day and put a Kaler bridge piece on an old 63 Strat. And so it was a locking nut system, so to tune down a half step was a pain. So I just kind of picked up, his right hand and just kind of, played along. I never did any Stevie Ray covers because I was already doing Hendrix, and paying tribute to Hendrix. And Page, and everybody at that time was like a Stevie clone, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to pay tribute to him by just honoring him in incorporating his style into what I did, into a more original, side of myself and as an artist. So that's the story.
Well, let me ask you a question, Kelly. And this is, I guess, getting off subject a little bit, but I'm listening.
Which you're good at.
Yes, which I'm very good at, yes. But I'm listening to your end of this conversation, and I'm hearing something in your speech pattern that I do not hear in too many guests, and it's a certain swagger, if you will. There's a certain amount of, I can't really think of the proper term, but maybe like a take charge type of attitude because of your experience.
Self-confidence.
Yeah, confidence, yeah. And not everybody has that. It's something that can't be taught, but is learned as far as your, life experience is concerned. What has gotten you to a stage in your life now where you can speak with such confidence and such swagger in your delivery, where people are going to stand up and listen to you like we are right now?
That's very interesting that you say that, and thank you. I think that is a compliment.
It was meant that way.
I'm really good at me when it comes to the guitar, and I practice 12 to 16 hours a day, and most of my style has come from those things that I couldn't do, but stealing what I could and making them my own. And being a female, I don't have the hand strength that guys do, but I'm really strong for a girl. So I had to play, I had to find workarounds. And my teacher I had the most amazing guitar teacher, but he looked me in the eyes and he said, girls don't play guitar. And he was right. He said, you're going to have to be twice yourself, twice as good to get anybody to take you seriously. And he was hard on me. One time after I played maybe 10 years, I caught him smiling when I was playing.
Oh,
and he didn't know I saw him. But, I've had to prove myself. In the first part of my career when I was younger, I had a chip on each shoulder, and that served me to some degree. And then had I kept those on my shoulder and not polished them, it would have hurt me. Because, I think, having a strong ego is very important, but having an ego that's unconscious is damaging, unnecessary, and disappointing if someone really does admire something that you do. There's nothing worse than meeting someone and finding that they're full of themselves. And I always feared that. I never wanted that. But at the same time, I'm very confident in what I do, and I don't try to do things that I can't. So I stick in my, little sliver of the pie, which is just ripping apart a guitar the way that I do it. I make no apologies, and I don't claim to do all things. But and when Lonnie first saw me play, the first thing he said after he said, you're Stevie Ray Vaughan trapped in a woman's body, he said, you need to learn how to sing. It's like, damn. It's like, okay, what do I do? Because I don't need to be right. I want to be the best that I can be. I would rather write.
I think in listening to you, though, I do not get that anything that you are saying is ego fed. I think it's confidence fed because of your experience. Is that a fair assessment?
It is. It absolutely is. Also, as a life coach, I coach people in the different parts of their psyche and those parts that are active, like the inner critic that's beating us to death, or a protector or a controller that's out of control, to help people identify what parts are too active and being detrimental to their life, and how to bring those into alignment so the ego is properly functioning. But like this morning, the new condo that I live at, we're having it's a small community, and I've been put in charge. I'm on the board. I've been put in charge of a roofing project. And I had a little problem with keeping my marbles all together this morning when that project started going sideways. So it was like, okay, back to square one, get back in the chair and redirect myself. But when you've done 4,000 shows and done 16 CDs and traveled all over, a number of places in the world, I do have the confidence of doing what it is that I do. And to get on stage and to make people feel and to move that energy, you have to. Now, often on stage, I have internal meltdowns thinking that it's awful, everything I'm doing is terrible, nobody's going to like me. But I don't show those things, there have been times where there were tears laced with sweat, but that was for me, and my own struggles. But music is the ideal place to emote, and I think people want to see emotion. And I was always a fan of Jimmy Page when he played live because, there were a few sloppy notes here and there, but look at where he was going. You get those notes that are
absolutely.
like, yes. So there's no perfection in my playing, but there is emotion, raw emotion.
And the question of the I don't know, the line between ego and confidence, actually it takes both, and you can't be confident without having your own ego. And in the business you're in, matter of fact, in any business for that matter, you've got to have a certain amount of ego, which is going to drive you to be good enough to be confident in what you're doing. So it makes perfect sense to me.
Yes, and, having a healthy ego. There's nothing, we have to have an ego. It's how we function in life. But is it healthy?
Absolutely.
Is it, and I just, a week from Wednesday, I'm graduating a 3-year program to be a spiritual director. And my life 10 years ago, this October, I got sober. And because I had always taught guitar lessons, I had good rapport one-on-one with people. So I started doing life coaching. At the time, it would have been easier to save the world than myself. But once I got sober and I used the coaching certification process to really get healthy and begin to work with other people in helping them to, achieve their goals, it's really been a wonderful process for the last 10 years to grow. And I think sometimes as an artist, it's a matter of growing up, because when you get to play music and when you get to perform in the arts, there's a longer curve, I think, of really growing up and taking personal responsibility because there's not a balance typically in life, off the road and on the road.
I can agree with you on that.
Yeah. So,
and I've got to move on here because I got to get to this point before we run out of time, and that is the fact that you have now just released, as the Spear Shakers, a 3-track EP. We played 1 track from it. We're going to play another here in a minute. But first, tell us about the EP in the, maybe 2 minutes we have left. Tell us about the EP.
Okay.
And also, if you could sum it up with telling us about the track we're going to play, which is Something's Going On.
Okay, so I went back through all of my material. I have 16 CDs, and pulled the tracks out that I'd written that I really loved, that I thought would transfer into the power duo with Sherry. And so I wanted to start there and just mine my catalog. So the first 3 songs I wanted to go in, and because people were like, okay, what are you doing now? And I wanted people to see it and hear it. So we recorded live in the studio, but we multi-tracked it, so it was a real good recording, but it captured the live energy. 3 songs. The first one that I heard you play, Leaving It All Behind. We did another one, I Went Down Easy, and What You're Going to Play, Something's Going On. And then we went and we shot 3 music videos, 1 for each, so you can see what this is live and in action. And then we wove together a promotional video, all of which, if you go to kellyrichey.com, at the bottom where our social media is, you can click and go to my YouTube page and see who it is that we are. And Something's Going On is a riff-driven song, which, everything's kind of riff-driven in a power duo or a power trio. But this maybe is most like Stevie Ray kind of, thing. So, you can decide for that. But Something's Going On is just, it just starts and it doesn't stop till it gets to the end, and it's real tight. It's not one of those extended guitar solos.
You did a fantastic job of wrapping this up, even with answering my closing question before I asked it.